Welcome to our continuing series, Questions and Answers for a World in Crisis. Today's subject, Mistakes, Part 1, from the Mother. If errors and mistakes could not be effaced at every moment, there would be no hope of salvation for the world. Do not give too much importance to the little incidents of life. The importance of these incidents lies in the extent to which they have served you to make a progress. And once the progress has been made, the consequences of past errors, if there are any, disappear through the intervention of the divine grace. For the Supreme Lord, sin does not exist. What you feel is the aspiration of your soul that wants to discover the divine and live Him. Persevere, be more and more sincere, and you will succeed. 24 April 1964. Sin belongs to the world and not to yoga. If you make one mistake in life, then you may have to suffer all your life. It does not mean that everybody suffers like that. There are people who go on making mistakes, and yet they do not suffer. But those who are born for a spiritual life have to be very careful. If the sense of unworthiness fills you with overflowing gratitude and throws you at Sri Aurobindo's feet in an ecstasy of joy, then you can know that it comes from a true source. If, on the contrary, it makes you miserable and brings an impulse to hide or to run away, then you can be sure that its origin is hostile. To the first, you can open freely. The second must be rejected. 4 February 1933. One must not torment oneself over errors that one may commit. But one must keep a perfect sincerity in one's aspiration. And in the end, everything will be all right. 4 January 1934. Thinking too much about one's impurities does not help. It is better to keep the thought fixed on the purity, light, and peace that one wants to acquire. 7 February 1934. You must not worry about these little things. They have no importance in themselves. Their value is to show us where unconsciousness still exists in our nature, so that we can bring the light there. 13 July 1934. It is all right to see the imperfections and deficiencies, but only on condition it brings a greater courage for a new progress, an increase of energy in the determination, and a stronger certitude of victory and future perfection. 22 January 1935. These ideas of incapacity are absurd. They are the negation of the truth of progress. What cannot be done today will be done another day, if the aspiration is there. 6 February 1935. Whenever you have made a mistake, I always told you very frankly, without hiding anything from you. Everybody makes mistakes, and everybody has to learn and to progress. It is quite wrong to go on brooding about the past. The true attitude is to remember that nothing happens but by God's will, and to submit to that will quietly. If you have made mistakes in the past, it is by lack of true surrender. And the only way to repair the mistakes is to surrender truly. It is good to recognize your mistakes, but you must not torment yourself. You must not suffer. You must correct yourself instead. When a mistake is made, it must always be used as a means for progress. Once the necessary change is realized, the mistake and its cause disappear, and there can be no repetition. 6 April 1937. It is very good that you have become conscious of the mistakes and defects of the nature. Once you are conscious, it is always possible to rise out of them and to change the nature. 23 January 1938. It seems to me, on the contrary, that the best way is to remain where you are and make an effort to discover your own faults. You are bound to have some, as everybody has, and try to correct them. To become conscious of one's own mistakes is the surest way to come out of a difficulty. A mistake recognized is a mistake pardoned. 14 October 1939. A mistake one denies is a mistake one refuses to set right. Repentance, the first step towards rectifying mistakes. It is no use excusing yourself. You must have the will never to fall back into the faults you have committed. Before going to sleep every night, we must pray that the mistakes we may have committed during the day should not be repeated in future. 20 June 1954. From Sri Aurobindo. I do not know why you suppose that the mother was displeased with you for your letter. I think my answer was quite kind and without any touch of displeasure in it. I was silent about most of what you had written, because when there are letters of this kind, I take it as an unburdening of the mind, and always either remain silent insofar as it concerns others, or else I say that we must rely on the growth of inner consciousness to get rid of the faults and deficiencies and mistakes of the sadhaks. Silence does not imply that these defects and mistakes do not exist, but all have defects in various forms and make mistakes, and the best sadhaks are not exempt. If other sadhaks commit errors, that is their responsibility. One can observe and avoid similar mistakes in oneself. But one sadhak cannot correct the errors of others unless that comes within his responsibility. Each has to correct himself and his own defects and mistakes. Mistakes come from people bringing their ego, their personal feeling, likes and dislikes, their sense of prestige, or their convenience, pride, sense of possession, etc., into the work. The right way is to feel that the work is the mother's, not only yours, but the work of others, and to carry it out in such a spirit that there shall be general harmony. Harmony cannot be brought about by external organization only, though a more and more perfect external organization is necessary. Inner harmony there must be, or else there will always be clash and disorder. But whatever the mistakes or difficulties, our help will be with you, and the mother's force will work to bring you out and get you back the psychic openness and peace which you had for many days this time, and which is bound to return and become permanent after a while. 1911, 1935. Do not worry about mistakes in work. Often you imagine that things are badly done by you, when you really have done them very well. But even if there are mistakes, it is nothing to be sad about. Let the consciousness grow. Only in the divine consciousness is there an entire perfection. The more you surrender to the divine, the more there will be the possibility of perfection in you. Do not attach too much importance to such mistakes, or get upset about them. It is the nature of the mind to make such mistakes. It is only a higher consciousness that can set them right. The mind can be sure only after a very long training in each particular action. And even then, it has only to be off guard for something untoward to occur. Do as well as you can. For the rest, let the higher consciousness grow till it can enlighten all the movements of the physical mind.